Ultra Instinct, bringing you a second place baby deck profile. This is the deck I played at, not Origins, Gencon, Sunday, August 7th, and managed to get to second place facing Justin Rios. In the finals, couldn't take him down, made some misplays, but you know, is what it is. And my buddy Lee actually created this deck list, and we kind of tweaked the sideboard a little together, going back and forth on it. But he's here with me today to talk about some of the deck decisions, because I literally could not have done this without him. And yeah, he's the baby master. I just did better because he wanted to experience Gen Con. So
What's
say
up,
hello.
guys?
All right.
How's everyone doing? Hope you all doing well.
And if any Hermit style people are in here watching the video, I think a lot of you happen to know Lee. So yeah, huge shout out to him once again. So we're just gonna go right into this. So obviously, I think everyone knows what Baby does by this point in the game. It's the set 11 Baby leader. A lot of people don't like him anymore because of what he's turned into. He's just the negate deck that happens to just be mill now. So imagine you wanted to hit someone, but they just kept telling you no the entire time. Yeah, that's what this was.
Yeah, it's a great leader. Great leader.
Yeah, I mean, you've been rocking him longer than me. You made the right decision in calling this as a good deck to play for Gen Con, I think, still. Even if you're a little worried after the recent top at, what was that, Otakon or whatever?
Yeah, with Mike winning, I didn't know if more people would be on with the baby hate, but we had a few different tech choices for the deck.
We had the spice. But yeah, so to start it all off after the leader, I'll just point this right out right away. Obviously, Planet Tuffle, since you play it out with your leader ability. I just wanted to just get to that because that's the main part of this deck, to where you can reduce your extra cards down by 1. But you know, you don't always actually have to utilize that -1 for the cost, because sometimes you get to a certain point in the game to where you can just have a body on the field and not even worry about them being a reduced cost anymore. Because if you have a body on field, the new errata is you can't reduce that cost now. So we obviously play 4 Dimension Magics, pretty straightforward. If someone runs the Silver Bullet, obviously we have new answers for that later on in the deck list, because if you untap an energy, there's certain cards that can like burn an energy and a life from you, which is very painful because those Silver Bullets only cost 1 energy. We also run the Zeno super combo. Lee, why don't you give a little bit of a reasoning as to why you prefer to run this over like a Vegeta super combo?
I just like running it because essentially your entire energy becomes your hand at that point. So if you need to charge something early in the game that you didn't want to charge, you can always grab it back later. And then every once in a while, you can play the Zeno for 1 just to draw. Sometimes that's relevant since you can look at the top 3 of your deck on the backside and rearrange your deck. So later on in the game, you kind of know your whole entire deck, at least the order. So if you just need that one specific card and you know it's not a counter, you can just play Zeno, draw it, and then you can start doing your shenanigans.
Right, and I know for me, when I was playing, it was nice to be able to potentially restand another energy and set up for some of our other negates in the deck, or just make it to where if I do negate again, I'm still not tapped out. And that was definitely very helpful for me the entire day, and I honestly would say that 4 Zeno is just way better than the Vegeta super combo right now. And then, this was one of our techs that we actually thoroughly enjoy. You don't need it as more than a 1 of, but when you see it, it's a very nice card. It's all too easy. It's actually the set 7 drop negate, and what I usually do is we have some negates that you pitch a card when you negate with it, and this is one of the cards that you can either pitch or you can use it once and use it again later. And honestly, I didn't have a chance to use it from the drop area, but I used it a couple times just outright from hand. It's nice to know that it's there later on, but in a lot of matchups, I actually just straight up didn't need to use it because that's how safe it was with this entire deck all day.
Yeah, and it's also just one of those cards you really don't need. Like, if you want to change the card, you can. That's just something that me and David want to run for the event.
Yeah, and I will say, it felt nice in the deck still, and at worst it just gets charged or just used as a normal negate. I mean, a negate's still a negate at the end of the day, so we'll take it. But the next card we run it at 3 of. We run Dirty Burst at 3 because there's a lot of decks that like to go over that 7 cost or more, to where you can just counterplay for the 2 energy, draw a card, and now suddenly the cards that they're playing that cost 7 or more energy, they just can't attack for the turn. And that's been absolutely huge against some decks. I mean, you can catch a GT player slacking. It's good against U7. It's good against Gamma. You could use it against Trunks Vegeta, but, you know, not a lot of them run a lot of the 8-drop Vegeta Trunks SPR/SR. But you can still catch them on their secret rares and whatnot. So it was a really good card all around. And for the entire event, I definitely did use it a lot, and I would say keeping it at 3. Honestly, if you want to run it at 4, you could. I don't think I would, but seeing it at 3 was perfect for the entire day because you just screw so many people over with that counterplay. And at worst, it's just a negate for 1 energy. But when you do the counterplay, you do actually have to pay an additional blue in addition to this cost, so it's not a 1 energy counterplay, it's actually a 2 energy counterplay. And we main decked 1 Jiren, Survival of the Fittest. It's easy to side out in a best of 1 pre-side event, but we had to do it to respect Gamma players just in case, or even, you know, other baby players or Vegeta Ramp. I mean, if they go for the Android 17 play, you just need this, otherwise it's pretty much game for you.
Yeah, and also we didn't know if there's going to be a top cut after Swiss or not, so we just wanted to put it in the main just in case.
Right. And I think it was a safe call. I mean, it was a super easy side out in matches, so, like, it never felt bad because our sideboard was basically just an extension of this, because it's a best of 1 pre-sided event, and it's nice when you could just take out useless stuff in certain matchups. We run 4 Revenge Big Bang Attack. That's pretty straightforward for a baby deck. You should always be doing that. We also run 4 Great Ape Son Goku Saiyan Instincts. Good against hand destruction, good to just draw cards, good as a pitch target for our Oceanus Negate, which we'll get to a little later. Good as combo power if you get to combo power, but the whole goal of the deck is to not even get to the combo step, so you usually aren't using it for combo power, you're just using it to pitch for other effects. But yeah, I mean, pay 2, draw 2. It's really good overall. That's why we ran it. I mean, it helps you get your hand size up. I think in 1 turn, I drew 7 or 8 cards because I did 2 Ape Gokus, had my Unison out, I awakened, and I drew off my leader swing for the turn. So, what is that? Yeah, that's 7 cards right there, right? No, 9 cards, actually. Yeah, that's a pretty explosive turn.
Pretty broken, if you ask me.
Then we had 2 Mafubas. This card actually didn't pop up a whole lot during the day because a lot of people didn't get me with like multiple attacking cards, so I didn't have a whole lot of use for it. But I think I was facing Marcel Russell in round 3, and that was the only time this card came up for the day. I might have used it on a Trunks Vegeta player too, I can't remember. But I Mafuba'd his Mira Overwhelm card, and he just kind of chuckled at it and said good game right after that. It was kind of funny, but definitely still feels good at 2 in the deck. I thought about doing it as 3 in the sideboard, but no, I think 2 is good. I just didn't get a whole lot of usage at the event, unfortunately, but still a great card. It's so funny when you can do Mafuba for 1 energy. After that, this is actually one of the cards that we've been talked about as the most lackluster. Oh my god. Lackluster. Oh, it's alright. My brain's fried. I've had a lot of work today. But Heroic Prospect Trunks, there isn't a lot of replacements, unfortunately, for it. And I think we'll just keep it as 2 for now until we figure out some other tech.
Yeah, it's a very niche card. Like, yeah, it might come up in such a random matchup that you don't ever expect, but overall, we've just been thinking about cutting the card because it is kind of trash.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you know, if you get it to negate for 1 energy, it's still good, but yeah, it's just, it really didn't pop up a lot for me during the day, unfortunately. It was honestly energy a lot of the times for me, which was fine. Then obviously we run for the Baby Gohan negate to get your Overlord skill on your Awakened side, be a Floodgate, and still be a 2 energy negate, or even a 3 energy negate if you already have the body on board. Like I said, at a certain point in the game, you have all that energy open, and then you just don't care if you're paying 3 for your negates or even 4. Definitely still good as a 4 of in the deck. It's nice to be able to Overlord, draw a card, and see another card, and you know, you're not like decking yourself out because he's just going to the bottom of the deck, so it's just a replacement effect. And if you need to swing him into a body on board, that also does work, but you have to be careful in certain matchups. Like, obviously you don't want to go up against yellow and then swing into something, and then they negate its skills, and then suddenly it doesn't have Overlord, or Servant, and then you can't Overlord because of it. So you have to be a little smart about that. So when I was playing against yellow during the days, I would just honestly not even swing with him, activate Overlord, and just bottom deck him. I don't even want to take the risk. And I'm pretty sure that was the right call, even if there was like that very small chance of a risk, but let's have no risk at all, you know?
You never know with Release from Evil too. Like, this yellow can just mess around with so many of your effects.
Yeah, and then we run 4 Vegeta Ready to Rumble, pretty straightforward, just another Floodgate, but this time it can't get hit by like Tyrannical Blow if you already have a body on the board. It's a 20k blocker, and they have to pop energy instead of getting rid of cards in hand. I'm going to group these two together, actually. So we have Rebirth of Justice, which this is the tech we decided to run for the day, and I think it was probably the best meta call by Lee to make, because there were a lot of decks that I played this package on and just milled them out. It was really funny. So you pay 4 for this, and what you do is you choose up to 1 blue battle card in your hand with an energy cost of 5 or less and play it. So basically you don't have to choose one if they counterplay in counter window 1, or you could play a Kale if they do like a God Sealing Technique Trunks in counter window 1, or a Vegeta, whatever the counterplay Vegeta is. But the second part here, you actually do have to choose something if they do have something on board. So it says then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and return it to their owner's hand. So obviously you can't choose something with barrier, but if they have a battle card without barrier on board, you have to choose it. So that's the unfortunate part about this card, because sometimes you do actually want that body to stay on board. Or unless they have, like, for instance, a Hatchiac Secret Rare on board, which I did happen to hit with this 2 times that day, I think, just to get rid of the hatch from board. You don't even have to worry about a 40k beater being there anymore. And then you plop out your full power Frieza 100% overdrive. And so this got eroded, but it's when this card attacks, choose all of your opponent's non-token battle cards now, ignoring barrier, and they get minus 30,000 power for the turn. And when one of your opponent's battle cards is decreased, they place 2 cards from the top of their deck in the drop area. So I faced, what is it, Andrew Duvall's his name, right, Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I faced him, and he had 9 guys on board at the time. I bounced a token back to his hand, and so it was removed from the game. I put out this Frieza, and I think he did make a slight misplay against me, because if from memory, he tried to Baby Ape and counter window 2 on me when he was playing Gamma, because he opted out of doing his leader auto. And I just bounced it back with God Sealing Trunks. But he had 8 bodies on board after I did the Rebirth, and so I swung with it into his Unison, and he had the Majin Buu Unison that we also run in this deck out. And since turn player autos go first, I negged 8 of his guys down by 30,000 power, and then he milled 16 cards from it. He went to 5 cards in deck, and he just scooped right there, because it was just going to be a rough game for him from there on. But yeah, most I milled was 16. Second most I think I milled for the day was 12. So this card was absolutely insane. The only matchup we really didn't want to use it for was Trunks Vegeta, or basically like any yellow, but mostly just Trunks Vegeta, because they have so much tap down stuff in there, and you just have to play around it too much. But it's a very easy package to side out, but it was great for the day. Then we also run 3 of the Oceanus Shenron Negate, and I pitched the idea of us putting a potential 4th one in the sideboard later on. But this card did amazing all day long. People did not even want to try and swing through it whenever it came down, because every time they have to attack, they mill 4, and no one wanted to mill 4. There was only one person all day long that swung twice through it and milled a total of 8 cards. But other than that, it just ended their turn almost every time, because this is the mill variant, so yeah, it was just funny. And so we had 3 God Sealing Technique Trunks in here. Honestly, I think 3 is all you need. And Lee, if you want to give a little bit more background why you decided on 3, feel free.
Uh, most most monsters nowadays have deflect. It's starting to lose its luster a little bit, but I think 3 is still a good number because it's searchable with the deck, and you never know what people are playing. Sometimes they might play an old card that doesn't have deflect anymore,
Yeah.
and it's just nice to feel safer, like just have it as a backup just in case.
Yeah, thinking
But
about it, I think I only got to use him once, maybe twice during the day. And like I said, I used it on the baby golden avenger that someone tried to do on me. I don't even, yeah, because everything has deflect. This really just, yeah, I couldn't do much.
yeah, it's good for the combo power. Honestly, it's easy charge for the deck. Like if you see Godzilla, you kind of just charge it and you just keep one in the hand for anything that might just screw you over.
Right. And so we do only run one baby 8/5 drop. And I'll say at one of, perfectly fine. You really don't need it at more than that. I mean, yeah, you could do 2, but honestly don't recommend it. It's the way you play this deck, you don't really need to counterplay them like that. And especially like we said already, there's so much deflect that it just doesn't even matter. But I will say there was one game this came in clutch, and it was me facing a Trunks Vegeta player, and I baby hatched, and the turn I had 8 energy open, and he had like 5 energy open or something like that. And so I did the baby hatch for free, and then he didn't even like bother countering me because he knew I had this in hand, and he just was like, yeah, I can't. Like, you're just gonna counter it. My turn's still done. This is a waste. So this card's still very funny if you have Baby Hatch in hand with a lot of untapped energy. We ran Kale, the Kale 5 drop at a 3 of, and honestly, during the day, it felt lackluster, but I know that's because of the matchups I had, because this card puts in a lot of work, and so unfortunately, I don't think I played it more than one time during the day, unfortunately, because the Rebirth Frieza package just was destroying people all day, because it was just surprise factor all day. No one expected it, and they were milling out. So, yeah, while this card is a great beater, it can beat people down. It's probably one of the best finishers in the deck, if not the best finisher. It's just when people aren't expecting the Rebirth Frieza, you know, you just do that on them and then mill them out. But this card is great. We talked about maybe bumping it down to 2 again, but I don't know. I still think it's good at 3. We'll have to keep figuring that one out.
I think if you're not playing the Rebirth package, you can put it up to 3, because then you're not so reliant on mill. But the Frieza package is just so super surprising for a lot of people that they just don't see it coming. By the time you swing with Frieza, the game's pretty much over.
Right. And this card, this isn't really Secret Spice anymore. This is actually a pretty common card for people to run in here now. King Cold, it's from set 9. Doesn't have Deflect, unfortunately, but, you know, gotta be a little bit fair, right? But it just has an auto of when you play this card, your opponent mills 5 cards from their deck. I think I played it 4 or 5 times during the day, and he pretty much every time except for the one time I did him against Justin Rios, it pretty much beat them every time. I played it when someone had exactly 5 cards left in deck. I played it when someone had 3 cards. I played it when someone had 6 cards in deck. I mean, they couldn't do anything about it because most of the decks just can't answer him coming onto the board. And he already gets his on-play auto. It was just funny playing it against people all day. You get to 6 energy so easily in this deck because of how defensive it is. So one of our other one-of tech spots was SSG Son Goku Miraculous Transformation. This one's from Realm of the Gods. It's a solid card. I think I only got to put it down in one matchup the entire day. And basically, as soon as it hit the board, they just scooped because they couldn't do anything after that. Because they had barely anything left in deck, and they just could not hit my leader. But it didn't pop up a whole lot for me, unfortunately, but it is great against battle card-based decks because if your leader card is mono blue and this card is in rest mode, your opponent's battle cards can't attack your leader cards. So basically, he just turns into a deadly defender in a way. And he costs a total of 3 at a certain point because during your opponent's turn, he gets reduced energy cost for each energy your opponent has. So obviously he can't go below 3 specified costs, so he'll just be a 3 cost. But good card, triple striker, barrier, deflect. I mean, what more can you ask for on a card? That's a lot of keywords already. Baby Hatch, secret rare, pretty straightforward, and probably the MVP of the deck. I'll say this comes down in almost every matchup. You pretty much want to see it in your starting hand every time, or at least hope that you see it on curve, because you want to see it by turn 4. And you do not want to have battle cards in the field on turn 4 either, because he's a unison card, so he doesn't count against your field card. So he did great all day long. This is definitely a staple for the deck. Super defensive with it. I mean, you're untapping a card so you can do your apes for essentially 1 energy. So you're just paying 1 energy to draw 2 cards. This guy's drawing you a card. Double strike blocker. You can go on the offensive with him. This card is just insane. I don't even think, like, would you even bother running the baby unison over that?
No, like there's only like maybe 1 or 2 matchups I could think of where I would like to run the baby unison, and that would be the mirror match itself, and then just go with the more Golden Adventures. But I don't even think that's worth it. I think just running 4 boos is the way to go.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. And a lot of people, funny enough, a lot of people, like, while they'll target this to get rid of markers on it, a lot of people just try to get it to 1 marker so this isn't live. But you really don't need this as much, so if they get it to 1 marker, they realize that they kind of screwed up in just directing all their attacks at this, because it was just going away from your leader instead. But some people who do target it to get rid of it, yeah, it's the right move. It's a very scary card in baby. But yeah, that's the main board. There's not a whole lot I think we'll end up changing from this, because a lot of stuff worked out very well. I mean, at most, maybe we can move Jiren to the sideboard again, since a lot of the stuff has been best of 1 pre-side. But if we know that event's going to have like a top cut, like Lee said, we thought there was going to be a top cut, but there wasn't, so we main decked it. But if there is going to be one where it's like best of 1 and then top cut is best of 3, definitely keep this in the main board. You just kind of have to anticipate how the event's going to be. But sideboard, we did have Kami at 3 originally, but we made some last minute edits. Kami at 2 was actually great. This is perfect for the Trunks Vegeta matchup. I mean, as soon as they have 4 or more battle cards in play, you just play this. Usually it'll be like turn 4 or 5 or something like that, and then you just blow up their board and you don't have to deal with Poutine, the Trunks blocker, rest a card when it comes in play. It's just nice to get rid of all the bodies on board. And it worked in the matchup I played against. I sided out Rebirth, Frieza, and put in 2 Kamis, and I think, I put in 3 Reality Bender Janemba, because obviously you don't need Jiren in the Trunks Vegeta matchup. But yeah, it was fantastic. Worked out great for me all day. At worst, it's a 1 energy draw 1 card. We ran 2 Protector of the People, and this is for more battle card based decks, like Agents of Destruction, and it didn't get to come in at all during the day, unfortunately for me. So it felt a little lackluster, but like, if you don't respect some of those other decks out there, you're going to regret not running it. And everything else in the sideboard did great for me, so it just is what it is. Realm of Gods, Beerus Destroys. This card did pretty well for me during the day. I didn't get to remove a lot of bodies on board with it. I think at most I removed 1 card from the field, and out of 6 games, it's not a whole lot. But, it was a 1 energy 10k boost for my leader card to draw a card, because you always do it on your opponent's turn. I never got to do it on my turn. I mean, you really don't need to go on the offensive with it, but if they do have that big of a threat, hey, you got something for it, right? And it's a blue energy, so you can also just straight up take out Jiren for that, and then you have another blue energy in the deck. We sided an additional Jiren for Gamma. I didn't see any of the Gamma players running Android 17, which actually surprised me a bit, or if they were running it, maybe they knew that I was probably running this card, since we're a more counter-based deck, so we have a bunch of energy open during their turn. I think we were kind of forced to just have to respect that. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Lee.
Yeah, it's just anytime you play against blue, you just have to respect the fact that they might play the card, and sometimes the turn of the tide can actually make you lose the game, even if you have Dirty Burst. So it's just better to have it than not have it.
Right. And now let's talk about your spice right here. You get full explanation on this one.
So Baby can actually lose to mill decks. So in my mind, I'm like, I'd rather just play this and at least have a chance to not mill out, or at least have that one extra turn where I can kill my opponent. Because Baby is not the fastest deck when it comes to killing someone. And it's also good against the mirror match. Just be able to keep recycling your guys. Because like you could recycle your Vegetas, your Gohans, whatever it may be, your Kells.
Recycle himself.
Yeah, you can recycle itself, so in theory, you can't mill out, or at least you're not gonna mill out as fast as you normally would. It's not really a needed card. We just run it just to run it. You could probably have better cards if you kind of predict the meta, but you just never know. You don't really need it. I just like it in there.
Yeah, and then we also run Devoro Ritual at hand. You have to respect hand hate. You literally just have to. So this is like almost an automatic 2 to 4 of in your sideboard, because Baby does unfortunately lose to hand hate. So what better way to answer that than by running the biggest enemy of it currently, which is Deborah, a 1 energy when you discard it from your hand by an opponent's skill just to draw 2 cards.
Yeah, and a lot, like, even though the hand destruction isn't really prevalent right now in the meta, I'd rather just have it because you never know. There's always that one person that might just bring some, like, Raditz and then kind of screw you over. Yeah.
I didn't face any hand hate at all during the day, but you just, like I said, you have to respect it. This was a tech that we decided to, and this isn't like a super random tech, like this is played by other Baby players, but we decided to try and run this for the day. And it actually did come up quite a few times for me during the day. Came in for a couple matches. I think there were only a couple other matches. I didn't end up bringing him in the game. But against Trunks Jita, he definitely comes in. It's pretty important to just get the extra mill 2 on them. It's another blue energy too, so that is pretty prevalent to have, especially if you just side out the Rebirth package. But being able to pay 1 energy when you're on turn 4 for both players, it's just, you're milling them an extra 2 cards, which, as I said, this is a mill deck, so every card counts in the drop area. And you can swing with it if you want, but typically I don't think we really end up swinging with it, just in case of any potential threats to it, unless they're like completely tapped out and they're not yellow. But against like Trunks Jita, I am not swinging with the card like ever, because I want it gone. And this also works fantastic with the Majin Buu Unison, because you're untapping the 1 energy, so it's basically like you didn't play anything at all. But it did come in against a few games. Trunks Jita came in. I think I brought it in against Gamma, because no, I didn't bring it against Gamma. U7, I think I may have brought it in against, just because, you know, we're not running Jiren in that matchup. But it worked out in a lot of games today, or during that day. And definitely wasn't a lackluster sideboard. It was pretty solid. I got it that time around. Hey.
Hey.
But let's go through all the matchups I had during that day, just so you guys know. So round 1, I faced a Trunks Jita matchup. I didn't go below 4 life at all. And I would say that was probably one of the easier matchups, because they don't have a whole lot they can do aside from counter you. But like I said, in the situation I had, they literally just couldn't. And they draw so much that I was milling them out so easily. I felt kind of bad, honestly. And Tyrannical Blow actually doesn't even work on Oceania Shenron properly. Like, it gets rid of her blocker, but it doesn't stop the mill. So that would be the main counter I would do on yellow decks, because they either cool or counter it, and a lot of people aren't really trying to do it super early in the game, so it's just ending their turns. So that was great against every yellow matchup, funny enough. Round 2, I faced U7, and I think, Lee, you think U7's probably the easiest matchup for the deck, right? Or easier matchup?
It's definitely an easier matchup. I have yet to lose to Red U7 with Baby, and I know a lot of other Baby players will agree that it's on the easier end. And of course they can beat you, but it just feels so lopsided to Baby's side that it just feels like it's a free match.
Right, and so I didn't go below 4 life in that game either. They didn't get a chance to play their Vegeta Secret Rare, because I think they actually messed up on the last turn, because they were getting a little flustered that I was still at 4 life. But, I mean, if he had saw his Brawly Crowns, it might have changed the tide of the game a little bit. But unfortunately, he ended up milling them from himself and from me. So, is what it is for him. I felt a little bit bad, honestly, in that matchup.
Don't feel bad.
Round 3, I faced Marcel Russell on King Piccolo. And, yeah, I felt kind of bad because I baby hatched him one turn, and then he had 7 bodies on board. And then the devs were actually watching us when we were playing that game, so that was pretty interesting. But on the next turn, I did Rebirth Frieza, bounced his Piccolo Jr. negate back to his hand because I was like, okay, if you want to negate the Frieza swing, go ahead. I don't care. I'm just gonna kill it and make you mill 14 because he still had 6 bodies on board. Swung, cleared board, got him to like 5 cards left in deck, and he just couldn't do much after that. He tried to push for game, but I had so much defensive options open that he just couldn't do anything, unfortunately for him. But he did get me to 3 life that game. So that was the first game I went under 4. But I felt like I was in total control of that match. Rounds 4 and 5 were both Gamma matchups. I know one of them was Andrew Duvall. I can't remember who the other guy was, but both of them played pretty well against me. But unfortunately for Andrew, he just didn't have the answer for the Frieza. Or he didn't properly sequence, maybe, I don't know. But I milled him for 16 in that game, which just ended that one. And the other Gamma matchup, I think I bottom decked the dude's cell 5 times in that game with the Majin Buu Unison, because I just ended up playing another one later on. And so he literally could not do anything to me at all. And I think that guy ran Baby Hatch, but Andrew, you said ran Supreme Kai, right?
And their deck profile today, yeah, they said it was Supreme Kai.
But Gamma was honestly not a very bad matchup for me at all. I felt pretty in control for the entire day. I want to say I stayed at 4 life for both of those games, but I might have gone to 3 against Andrew or the other Gamma player. I can't remember, unfortunately. Final matchup was against Justin Rios, and he was playing the Unison Goku deck from set 17. And like it's not a bad matchup for Baby. It's just the fact that a lot of people in that deck for some reason are running over 2 cooler counters. So like he would just counter my stuff a lot. It was a little bit annoying. And I know I did misplay in the final round or turn. And I guess I got a little too preemptive on playing King Cold and played it sooner. But I forced him to pay energy to play a bunch of Unisons just so he could activate his Leader ability and put him back in the deck so he didn't deck out. But it was a very close game, I would say. I never got him under 4 life because I wasn't swinging at his life at a certain point. I was just trying to deck him out. That could have been a mistake. I'm really not too sure. But I know one thing I did forget to do because I forgot that Release from Evil only lasts till the end of your turn, not till the end of your opponent's turn. So I had swung with my Buu Unison, and he did Release from Evil on it. So I thought it didn't restand, but turns out it still does because it restands during the opponent's turn. But it was a lot of anti-floodgate stuff, for sure, that I had to face, and that was a little bit annoying. But it was a very close game, and he ended up getting it, and right after that, since he was the only undefeated, that ended up being the end of the tournament. And I know I made Lee proud by getting 2nd place with his deck. He was happy to hear that I did that, and a lot of my locals are happy that I got there. I appreciate all the support I had getting there. And that was my first ever 2nd place, so we'll take that. Could have had 1st, but just not good enough, I guess.
Get there one day.
Yeah, one day. But that actually does wrap up the deck profile. So, Lee, if you have any final thoughts, feel free to say it now.
I don't really have too much thoughts, but after playing the deck, what would you recommend changing overall?
The only thing I was thinking was, like I said, the 4th Oceanus in the side for certain matchups, like yellow, for instance, so they just can't anti-floodgate you with the T-blow or something. If they cool or counter you, I mean, that's going to happen no matter what, right?
Yeah.
We got to figure out how to change this heroic prospect. I think that's one of the final thoughts we got to figure out is that, because it's just it's weird. It's just weird. Like, it's good and then it's bad. I don't know.
Yeah, we can probably just get rid of it completely.
And then I think our sideboard was actually pretty strong. Like we just had to run certain cards in the side, and the Reality Bender Janemba wasn't like super cute. Like it actually did work out very well a lot against people, so I would keep this. I don't know how long we can hold on to the Rebirth Frieza package, because when people see a deck doing well with it, suddenly it's not a surprise factor anymore. It's like, oh, of course you run that engine.
Yeah, it was good for the tournament we went to with it.
Definitely, because people weren't expecting that. They were expecting the more ramped kind of version of it. After that, I don't think we really need to make many changes. This is probably the final that the list will be with the select changes I mentioned. I don't know what we'd take out of the side for the extra Oceanus. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. We'll figure that out eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, closing thoughts. Deck still very good. Hopefully that it doesn't get hit, because it's been doing very well. You know, that's what 2-3 events in a row that it's top 16, and I think even gotten in the top 4. It's pretty annoying seeing all the negates, so I can understand people's pain. So hopefully it doesn't get hit. And I doubt the Rebirth Frieza package will get hit, because, you know, this card's already been hit once for it being broken, and I would still say it is very broken.
Yeah, I don't see it getting hit at all.
Right, but yeah, I think that wraps it up for us. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and we'll see you in the next one.